The dust-filled air of Brownsville, Texas shimmered with heat as Sophia Valdez stood on the wooden auction platform, her wrists bound with coarse rope that chafed against her skin. Her heart hammered wildly in her chest as she tried to shield her younger sisters, Eliza and Maria, from the hungry gazes of the men gathered below. It was 1875, and their world had collapsed just 3 weeks ago when their father's ranch was seized for unpaid debts after his untimely death. First lot 3 women sold as a package, the auctioneer bellowed, his voice carrying across the crowded square. The eldest is 22, educated, can cook and keep house. The middle one's 19, good with horses. The youngest is 18, healthy and strong. Starting bid at $300. Sophia fought back tears, keeping her chin high despite the humiliation. She had promised her dying father she would protect her sisters, but now they were being sold like cattle. Their father's supposed friend, Judge Harrison, had arranged this debt settlement with suspicious haste, pocketing their home and arranging this auction with an efficiency that suggested long-standing corruption. $350, called a voice from the crowd. $400, shouted another. Sophia squeezed her sister's hands, feeling Maria trembling beside her. The bidding continued, reaching $700 when a rough-looking man with a scar across his face offered $800. The look in his eyes made Sophia's blood run cold. $800 going once. The auctioneer called. $1,000, came a clear, steady voice from the back of the crowd. The gathered men turned to see who had bid such a sum. A tall figure stepped forward, the crowd parting before him. He wore a black Stetson pulled low over his eyes, a dust-covered duster, and had the confident stride of a man who knew his own worth. As he moved closer to the platform, Sophia could see his face clearly handsome, weathered by sun and wind, with piercing blue eyes that assessed the situation with cool detachment. $1,000 from Mr. Owen Northcott, the auctioneer announced, surprised by the high bid. The scarred man spat in the dirt. $1,100. Without hesitation, the cowboy countered. $2,000. A murmur ran through the crowd. This was an exorbitant sum. $2,000 going once, going twice. The auctioneer looked around eagerly, hoping for another bid to drive up his commission. Sold. To Mr. Northcott for $2,000. Sophia felt her stomach twist. They had been purchased, but to what end? As the cowboy approached the platform and handed over a stack of bills to the auctioneer, Sophia steeled herself for whatever might come next. The cowboy climbed the steps to the platform with deliberate movements. He stood before the 3 sisters, his expression unreadable. Then, to everyone's astonishment, he pulled a knife from his belt. Sophia instinctively pushed her sisters behind her, but instead of threatening them, he cut their bonds with quick, precise movements. "You're all free," he said simply, his voice low enough that only they could hear him. Then, louder for the crowd, "These women are now under my protection. Anyone who has a problem with that can speak to me directly." The crowd murmured, but no one stepped forward to challenge him. The cowboy Owen Northcott turned back to the sisters. "I have horses waiting. If you'd like, I can escort you to safety away from this town." Sophia studied him warily, uncertain whether to trust this stranger. "Why would you help us?" A shadow passed over his face. "Let's just say I've seen enough injustice to last a lifetime." He gestured toward the edge of town. "We should leave before anyone gets ideas about contesting the sale." With no other options and the hostile crowd watching their every move, Sophia nodded. "Lead the way, Mr. Northcott." As they walked through town toward the hitching post where 3 horses waited alongside Owen's impressive black stallion, Sophia kept her sisters close. Eliza, the middle sister with fiery determination despite her gentle appearance, kept glancing nervously over her shoulder. Maria, the youngest, walked with her head down, still processing the trauma of the past weeks. "Can you all ride?" Owen asked as they reached the horses. "Yes," Sophia answered. Their father had raised them to handle themselves on horseback from an early age. "Where are you taking us?" "My ranch is about 10 miles north of here," Owen replied, helping Maria onto a chestnut mare. "You'll be safe there until you decide what you want to do next." As they mounted and rode out of town, Sophia could feel the stares of the townspeople boring into her back. She had no idea if this strange cowboy's protection would prove to be salvation or just another form of captivity. But for now, the dust of Brownsville behind them felt like the first breath of freedom. The Texas landscape stretched out before them as they rode, the afternoon sun beating down mercilessly. Owen led the way, occasionally glancing back to ensure the sisters were keeping pace. After riding for about an hour in silence, Sophia guided her horse alongside his. "Mr. Northcott," she began, her voice carrying over the sound of hoofbeats, "I appreciate what you did back there, but I still don't understand why. $2,000 is a fortune." Owen adjusted his hat, shielding his eyes from the sun. "Miss Valdez, right? I heard them say your name at the auction." "Sophia Valdez," she confirmed. "And my sisters, Eliza and Maria," he nodded. "Owen Northcott, and as for the money—" He paused, considering his words. "I've spent the last 5 years building something here in Texas, something honest." What was happening back there wasn't honest. It wasn't right. Sophia studied his profile. Men don't usually spend that kind of money on principle alone. A hint of a smile touched his lips. "Maybe not. But I've seen people treated like property before, during the war and after." His expression darkened. "I served in the Union Army, saw too many people sold who shouldn't have been." "The war's been over for 10 years, Sophia observed. "Some battles never end, Miss Valdez." He looked at her directly. "Judge Harrison has been running schemes like this for years. Seizing property on questionable grounds, arranging debt settlements that line his pockets. You're not his first victims. How do you know about our situation?" "Brownsville is small and news travels. I heard about a rancher named Valdez who died suddenly, leaving 3 daughters. Then I heard Harrison had claimed the land for debt repayment. Didn't take much to figure out what was happening." They rode in silence for a moment, the rhythmic sound of hooves kicking up dust from the trail. "My father wasn't in debt," Sophia finally said, her voice tight with controlled anger. "He was careful with money. After our mother died 6 years ago, he became even more cautious. Harrison fabricated those debts." Owen nodded. "I suspected as much. He's done it before. And yet no one stops him. He has powerful friends, and most people are too afraid to stand against him." "But not you," Sophia challenged. Owen's blue eyes met hers. "I've faced worse than corrupt judges, Miss Valdez." As they crested a hill, Sophia could see a sprawling ranch in the distance. A large main house stood surrounded by several outbuildings, corrals, and fenced pastures where cattle grazed. It was impressive, clearly the property of a successful rancher. "Welcome to North Star Ranch," Owen said, a note of pride in his voice. They rode down into the valley, approaching the ranch house. As they neared, a stocky man with graying hair emerged from the barn. "Sam," Owen called out, "we have guests." The man named Sam approached, eyebrows rising as he took in the 3 women. "I see that." He turned to Owen with a questioning look. "Sam Davis, my foreman," Owen introduced. "Sam, these are the Valdez sisters. They'll be staying with us for a while." Sam's weathered face broke into a warm smile. "Ladies, welcome to North Star. I expect you've had quite a day." "That's putting it mildly," Eliza spoke up for the first time since leaving town. "Sam, have Rosa prepare the guest rooms," Owen instructed, dismounting and moving to help Maria from her horse. "And let's get some food ready. I imagine none of you have eaten today." Rosa's already got stew on, Sam replied. I'll tell her to set extra places. As they dismounted, a young stable hand came running to take their horses. Sophia felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her as her feet touched the ground. The events of the day of the past weeks suddenly felt overwhelming. Owen seemed to notice. Let's get you all inside. You can rest, eat, and then we'll figure out what comes next. The interior of the ranch house was surprisingly elegant, with polished wooden floors, comfortable furniture, and touches that spoke of care and attention. A middle-aged Mexican woman with a kind face greeted them in the entryway. Rosa, these are the Valdez sisters, Owen explained. They'll be staying with us for a while. Rosa's warm brown eyes assessed them quickly. You poor dears look exhausted. Come, I'll show you to your rooms where you can freshen up before dinner. As they followed Rosa upstairs, Sophia couldn't help but feel a strange mix of gratitude and suspicion. Owen Northcott's generosity seemed genuine, but experience had taught her that people rarely acted without self-interest. Your things from the ranch, Maria whispered beside her. Do you think they're gone forever? Sophia squeezed her sister's hand. I don't know, Maria. But we're together, and for now, that's what matters. After washing up and changing into clean dresses that Rosa had provided from a trunk of clothes, the sisters made their way downstairs for dinner. Owen was waiting in the dining room, having changed from his trail clothes into a clean white shirt and dark vest. Ladies, he greeted them, I hope you found everything you needed. Yes, thank you, Sophia replied formally. Your housekeeper has been most kind. Rosa's been with me since I established this place. More family than employee at this point. He gestured to the table. Please sit. We have much to discuss. The meal that Rosa served was simple but delicious beef stew, fresh bread, and vegetables from the garden. For the first time in weeks, the Valdez sisters ate properly, the tension in their shoulders gradually easing as they satisfied their hunger. As they were finishing, Owen leaned forward. I want to be clear about something. You are not obligated to me in any way. The money I paid was to secure your freedom, not to purchase your services or company. Then what do you expect in return? Sophia asked directly. Nothing. You're welcome to stay here as long as you need to. When you're ready to move on, I'll help you get established elsewhere if that's what you want. Eliza exchanged a glance with Sophia. Why would you do that for strangers? Owen's expression grew distant. During the war, I saw what happens when good people stand by and do nothing in the face of injustice. I swore I'd never be that person. He paused. And I knew your father, though not well. Lucas Valdez was an honest man. What Harrison did to his legacy and his daughters deserves to be addressed. Maria looked up with hope in her eyes. You knew our father. We crossed paths occasionally at cattle auctions. He spoke of his daughters with pride. Owen's eyes softened. He wouldn't want you to be victims of Harrison's schemes. Sophia felt a lump in her throat. Thank you for that. It's been hard to maintain his memory with everything that's happened. The conversation turned to practicalities. Owen explained that the ranch had plenty of room, with a separate guest wing where the sisters could have privacy. There were spare clothes that would suit them until they could arrange for more, and they were welcome to use the ranch's facilities as they pleased. I should warn you, Owen added. Harrison won't take this lightly. He's not used to being thwarted, but you're safe here. My men are loyal and we keep a good watch. Will he try to take us back? Maria asked, fear evident in her voice. He might try, Owen admitted. But legally, I purchased your debt contract fairly. And I have friends in the territorial government who would take a dim view of his methods if they were exposed. As the evening wore on, Sophia felt herself beginning to trust this strange, principled man. Perhaps it was exhaustion lowering her guard, or perhaps it was the genuine kindness in his actions. but she found herself sharing more about their situation, how their father had died unexpectedly, how Harrison had appeared the very next day with documents claiming ownership of their ranch, how they'd been forced out with only the clothes on their backs. "I tried to fight it legally," Sophia explained, the frustration evident in her voice. "But no lawyer in Brownsville would take our case. They all claimed the documents were in order." "Harrison has most of the town in his pocket," Owen said grimly, "but not everyone. And certainly not the federal authorities." As Rosa cleared away the dishes, Owen stood. "You must be tired. We can continue this discussion tomorrow after you've rested." Sophia nodded, suddenly aware of the bone-deep weariness that had settled over her. "Thank you, Mr. Northcott, for everything." His blue eyes held hers for a moment. "Owen, please, and you're welcome, Miss Valdez." "Sophia," she corrected, offering a small smile. That night, as Sophia lay in the comfortable bed in the guest room, she found herself unable to sleep despite her exhaustion. The day's events kept replaying in her mind the humiliation of standing on that auction block, the fear of what might happen to her sisters, and then the unexpected appearance of Owen Northcott, like some figure from a dime novel coming to their rescue. She rose quietly and moved to the window, looking out at the moonlit landscape of North Star Ranch. In the distance, she could see a figure walking near the corral. Owen, apparently also unable to sleep. She watched as he leaned against the fence, his posture suggesting a man carrying burdens of his own. Who was this cowboy who spent a fortune to free 3 women he barely knew? And could they truly trust him with their safety and their futures? The questions followed Sophia into her dreams, where blue eyes and a steadying hand featured prominently amid the chaos of her uncertain world. Dawn broke over North Star Ranch with a gentle pink glow that gradually gave way to the bright Texas sunshine. Sophia woke to the sounds of the ranch coming to life, horses nickering, cattle lowing in the distance, and the muffled voices of ranch hands beginning their day's work. She dressed quickly in one of the simple dresses Rosa had provided, finding that it fit well enough for temporary use. When she emerged from her room, she found both her sisters already awake, Maria looking better rested than she had in weeks. "I slept through the night," Maria marveled as they made their way downstairs. "No nightmares." "Me too," Eliza added. "Something about this place feels safe." Sophia nodded, though she kept her own restless night to herself. "Let's see what the day brings before we get too comfortable." They found Owen in the kitchen, talking with Rosa while drinking coffee at the large wooden table. He stood when they entered. "Good morning. I hope you slept well." "Very well, thank you," Eliza answered for all of them. Rosa bustled about, serving them a hearty breakfast of eggs, bacon, biscuits, and strong coffee. As they ate, Owen outlined his plans for the day. "I have business in town this morning," he explained. "While I'm there, I'll try to gather some information about your situation. Rosa will show you around the ranch, and Sam can introduce you to the horses if you'd like to ride later." "I'd like to come with you," Sophia said firmly. "To town." Owen studied her for a moment. "It might not be safe." "Harrison has already done his worst," Sophia interrupted. "And I need to understand exactly what happened with our ranch. If there's any chance of reclaiming it, I want to know." After a brief consideration, Owen nodded. "All right, but we'll need to be careful." An hour later, they were riding toward Brownsville, Sophia on a gentle bay mare that Owen had selected for her from his stable. They rode side by side, the morning still cool enough for comfortable travel. "Tell me about your family," Owen said after they had ridden in silence for a while. "Your father raised 3 remarkable daughters on his own after your mother passed." Sophia smiled at the memory. "He did. He was unconventional in his approach, taught us to ride, shoot, and run the business alongside more traditional skills. Said women on the frontier needed to be prepared for anything. Wise man, he was, After Mother died, he could have sent us east to relatives or boarding schools, but he kept us close. Said we were his heart. Her voice caught slightly. It's been hard losing him so suddenly. How did he die? Owen asked gently. They said it was his heart. He was found in the fields near the south pasture. Sophia frowned. It seemed strange. He was only 45 and had always been healthy, but with everything that happened after. You suspect foul play, Sophia hesitated. I don't know. It seems far-fetched, but the timing was too convenient for Harrison. My father dies, and the very next day Harrison appears with papers showing our ranch heavily mortgaged to him. Her eyes flashed with anger. Papers my father supposedly signed, though I never saw him do so, and he told me everything about our finances. Owen's expression darkened. That does sound suspicious. Do you know who found him? One of our ranch hands, Miguel Sanchez. But Harrison dismissed all our workers immediately after claiming the property. I don't know where any of them went. We might be able to locate some of them. Hands talk, especially when they've been treated unfairly. As they approached Brownsville, Owen guided them to a side street, avoiding the main thoroughfare. They dismounted in front of a modest building with a sign reading Wallace and Sons, attorneys at law. Jeremiah Wallace is one of the few honest lawyers in the territory, Owen explained as they tied their horses, and he owes me a favor. Inside, they were greeted by a young clerk who immediately recognized Owen. Mr. Northcott, father's expecting you. He led them to a back office where an older man with spectacles and a neatly trimmed white beard rose to greet them. Owen, good to see you. His gaze shifted to Sophia. And this must be Miss Valdez. Please, sit down. Once they were seated, Jeremiah Wallace leaned forward. Owen sent word ahead about your situation. I've already begun looking into it. Hope surged in Sophia's chest. Have you found anything? Preliminary findings only. The documents Harrison filed appear legitimate at first glance, a mortgage agreement and promissory note signed by Lucas Valdez, with your ranch as collateral. He raised a hand to forestall Sophia's protest. But I've compared the signature with other documents your father signed that are on file with the county clerk. There are discrepancies. Forgery, Owen stated flatly. Wallace nodded. Potentially, but proving it would be challenging. Harrison has the county judge in his pocket, and the territorial circuit judge won't be through for another 2 months. What about the auction itself? Sophia asked. Was that even legal? A legal gray area, Wallace admitted. Harrison claimed the right to auction your labor to satisfy the debt, rather than selling you as property, which would be illegal. It's a technicality that allowed him to essentially sell you into indentured servitude. But I purchased that contract, Owen interjected, and immediately nullified it. Yes, and that stands legally. They cannot reclaim the Valdez sisters. Wallace turned to Sophia. But reclaiming your ranch will be more complicated. Harrison has already filed a deed transfer. He now owns the Valdez property on paper. Sophia felt her hopes sinking. So there's nothing we can do. I didn't say that, Wallace replied with a small smile. I've sent inquiries to the land office in Austin. If we can prove the original documents were forged, we might have a case. And there's the matter of your father's death. If there was foul play involved, how would we prove that now? Sophia asked. It's been weeks. Owen and Wallace exchanged glances. That would require an investigation beyond what a lawyer can provide, Wallace said carefully. But Owen has connections. What kind of connections? Sophia looked at Owen questioningly. I have a friend who used to be a Pinkerton detective, Owen explained. He works privately now. If anyone can uncover the truth, it's Daniel Baker. And what would this cost? Sophia asked, the practicality her father had instilled in her coming to the fore. I have no money to pay investigators or lawyers. Consider it an investment in justice, Wallace said firmly. Owen has arranged for my fees, and as for Baker—" He glanced at Owen. "Let me worry about that," Owen assured her. "For now, let's gather what information we can here in town. I thought we might visit the general store. The owner, Mrs. Abernathy, sees everything that happens in Brownsville and isn't afraid of Harrison." They thanked Wallace and made their way to Abernathy's general store. Sophia kept her head high as they walked through town, aware of the stares and whispers that followed them. Word of yesterday's auction and its unusual conclusion had clearly spread. Inside the store, a plump woman with gray-streaked hair was arranging fabric bolts. She looked up as they entered, her eyes widening slightly. "Owen Northcott, as I live and breathe, and Miss Valdez. My dear, I was sick with worry when I heard what happened to you and your sisters." She hurried forward, taking Sophia's hands in hers. "Are you all right? We're managing, Mrs. Abernathy, thanks to Mr. Northcott's intervention. Such a scandal, that auction." Mrs. Abernathy shook her head disapprovingly. "Harrison's gone too far this time. We're trying to understand exactly what happened," Owen explained, "with Lucas Valdez's death and the seizure of their ranch." Mrs. Abernathy glanced around the empty store before lowering her voice. "People are talking, you know. It's not the first time Harrison has conveniently acquired property after a sudden death." "What do you mean?" Sophia asked sharply. "Last year, the Peterson place. James Peterson was found dead in his barn, supposedly kicked by a horse. Harrison produced papers showing Peterson had borrowed heavily from him. His widow and children left town within a week." Owen's jaw tightened. "And before that, the Miller homestead 3 years ago." "Same story. Miller died unexpectedly. Harrison had debt papers." She looked at Sophia sympathetically. "Your father never struck me as a man who'd mortgage his ranch, especially not to Harrison." "He wouldn't have," Sophia confirmed. "The ranch was his life's work, his legacy for us." The bell over the door jingled as a customer entered. Mrs. Abernathy squeezed Sophia's hand. "Come to the back room," she whispered. "There's someone you should meet." In the store's back room, a nervous-looking Mexican man was taking inventory of supplies. He looked up as they entered, his eyes widening in recognition. "Miss Sophia, Miguel." Sophia rushed forward. Miguel Sanchez had been one of their most trusted ranch hands, the very man who had found her father's body. "I've been worried about you and the others." "Harrison dismissed you all so quickly." Miguel nodded grimly. "He brought his own men, gave us an hour to pack our belongings." "Miguel has been helping me in the store," Mrs. Abernathy explained. "He's been afraid to approach you with Harrison's men watching your movements before the auction." "Miguel," Owen stepped forward, introducing himself. "We're trying to understand what happened to Lucas Valdez. You found him, correct?" The ranch hand nodded, crossing himself reflexively. "In the south pasture. At first I thought he was sleeping, but when I approached—" He shook his head. His face was strange, blue. "I called for help, but he was already gone." "Was there anything unusual you noticed?" Owen pressed. "Anything that might suggest it wasn't a natural death?" Miguel hesitated, glancing at Sophia apologetically. "I did not want to distress you further, Miss Sophia, but yes. There was a small puncture on his neck, like from a thorn, perhaps, and nearby I found a broken syringe glass." Sophia gasped. "You never told me this." "By the time I returned with help, the glass was gone. And when the doctor came, he barely examined your father before declaring it heart failure. When I tried to mention the syringe, the doctor dismissed me." His expression darkened. "The doctor is Harrison's cousin." Owen and Sophia exchanged significant looks. This was evidence of something far more sinister than opportunistic debt collection. "Miguel, would you be willing to make a sworn statement about what you saw?" Owen asked. The ranch hand straightened his shoulders. "For Don Lucas and his daughters, see, I am not afraid." "This could be dangerous," Sophia warned. Harrison has already proven he's capable of murder. All the more reason to stop him, Mrs. Abernathy declared firmly. Miguel isn't the only one who can testify to Harrison's methods. I've been keeping notes for years, recording the patterns. I may be just a shopkeeper, but I see everything in this town. Owen nodded appreciatively. You may have provided exactly what we need to build a case, but we should move carefully. Harrison has allies. And now, so do we, Sophia said with new determination. As they prepared to leave the store, Mrs. Abernathy insisted on sending them with supplies, fabric for new dresses for the sisters, coffee, sugar, and other necessities. Consider it my contribution to justice, she said firmly, waving away Owen's attempt to pay. Outside, they found a small crowd had gathered, watching Owen's and Sophia's horses with interest. Among them, Sophia recognized Harrison's right-hand man, a brutish fellow named Grimes. Well, Grimes drawled as they emerged. If it ain't the high-bidding cowboy and his purchase. Enjoying your new property, Northcott? Owen's hand moved instinctively toward his gun, but Sophia placed a restraining hand on his arm. The only property being misused in this county is the Valdez Ranch, she said clearly, her voice carrying to all listeners, which was stolen through forgery and likely murder. Murmurs ran through the crowd. Grimes' face darkened. Bold accusations from a woman with no standing. Maybe Harrison was too generous allowing you to be sold intact instead of parcel by parcel. Owen stepped forward, his voice dangerously quiet. That's enough, Grimes. Miss Valdez is under my protection. Spread the word to Harrison we're investigating the circumstances of Lucas Valdez's death and the suspicious debt papers. If he's smart, he'll start preparing his defense. You're making a mistake, Northcott, Grimes warned. Harrison has friends you don't want as enemies. And I have friends he doesn't yet know about, Owen countered, helping Sophia onto her horse before mounting his own. Good day, gentlemen. As they rode away from town, Sophia could feel the tension radiating from Owen. They traveled in silence until they were well away from Brownsville, then he slowed his horse, turning to face her. That was dangerous, confronting Grimes publicly like that. Perhaps, Sophia agreed. But sometimes the truth needs witnesses. The people of Brownsville have lived under Harrison's shadow for too long. They need to know someone is willing to stand against him. Owen studied her with newfound respect. You're braver than most men I know. Not brave. Desperate. He killed my father, stole our home, and tried to sell me and my sisters. I have nothing left to lose. You have your lives, Owen reminded her gently. And now, perhaps, a chance at justice. But we need to be strategic. Harrison won't take this challenge lightly. Sophia nodded, recognizing the wisdom in his caution. What's our next step? I'll send for Daniel Baker immediately. He can start investigating your father's death. Meanwhile, Wallace will work on the legal angle, gathering evidence of forgery. He paused. And you and your sisters will remain safely at North Star. I want to help, Sophia insisted. This is our fight. Owen's expression softened. And you will. But charging headlong into danger won't serve justice. We need to be patient, build our case carefully. As they continued toward the ranch, Sophia found herself studying Owen's profile against the afternoon sun. There was something about him, a quiet strength, an unwavering sense of justice that was increasingly compelling. Beyond his handsome features lay a depth of character that drew her in despite her determination to remain focused solely on reclaiming her family's legacy. She wondered what had shaped him, what experiences had forged this man who would spend a fortune to free strangers and then commit himself to their cause. There was more to Owen Northcott than met the eye, and Sophia found herself increasingly curious to discover what lay beneath his composed exterior. Back at North Star Ranch, they found Eliza and Maria engaged in surprisingly domestic activities. Eliza was in the kitchen with Rosa, learning to make traditional Mexican dishes, while Maria was in the garden, helping with the vegetable harvest. They insisted on making themselves useful, Sam explained as Owen and Sophia dismounted. Couldn't keep them idle if I tried. Owen smiled. The Valdez sisters aren't the type to sit on their hands. I'm learning. Over dinner that evening, Owen and Sophia shared what they had discovered in town. The revelation about their father's likely murder brought tears to Maria's eyes, while Eliza's face hardened with resolve. I always felt something was wrong about how suddenly he died, Eliza said. He was so strong, so healthy. And now we may have proof, Sophia told them. Miguel saw evidence that suggests father was poisoned or injected with something. We should be careful not to get ahead of the evidence, Owen cautioned, but it's certainly suspicious enough to warrant investigation. How long will it take your detective friend to get here? Maria asked. A week, perhaps less. I've sent a telegram asking him to come immediately. And in the meantime, Eliza pressed. We just wait, we prepare, Owen corrected. We gather whatever evidence we can, speak with other potential witnesses, and ensure you're all safe while we do so. After dinner, as the sisters retired to their rooms, Owen asked Sophia to join him on the porch. The evening was pleasantly cool, with a vast canopy of stars stretching overhead. They sat in comfortable rocking chairs, the sounds of the night settling around them. I wanted to thank you, Owen said after a comfortable silence, for trusting me enough to come into town today. It can't have been easy returning to Brownsville after what happened. I should be thanking you, Sophia replied, looking up at the stars. You've given us hope when we had none. Owen turned to face her, his expression earnest in the soft lamplight spilling from the window. There's something I need to tell you, about why I was at that auction yesterday. Sophia waited, sensing this was important to him. I told you I served in the Union Army. What I didn't mention was that I was captured near the end of the war and spent 6 months in a Confederate prison camp. His voice grew distant with memory. Conditions were brutal. I nearly died there. I'm sorry, Sophia said softly, understanding now the shadows she sometimes saw in his eyes. I was rescued by a black soldier named Thomas, who had been enslaved before the war. He could have escaped alone, but he came back for the other prisoners. Owen's voice thickened with emotion. He died getting me and 3 others out. His last words to me were, "Don't waste your freedom, boy. Use it to make things right." Sophia felt tears prick her eyes at the story. When I heard about 3 women being auctioned, I couldn't stand by. It wasn't the same as slavery, but the principle treating human beings as property, it was too familiar. He looked at her directly. So you see, my help isn't entirely selfless. I made a promise years ago. That doesn't make it any less meaningful, Sophia assured him, impulsively reaching out to touch his hand. If anything, it makes what you did more honorable. Their eyes met, and something passed between them, a moment of understanding, of connection that transcended their brief acquaintance. Sophia felt her heart quicken, and for a moment, she forgot about Harrison, about the ranch, about all the troubles weighing on her. Owen seemed similarly affected. He held her gaze for a long moment before clearing his throat and gently withdrawing his hand. It's getting late. You should rest. Sophia nodded, rising from her chair. Good night, Owen. Good night, Sophia. As she walked back to her room, Sophia acknowledged to herself that her feelings toward Owen Northcott were becoming complicated. In the midst of fighting for justice and her family's legacy, she was developing a deep admiration for this man, an admiration that was rapidly evolving into something more. The next week at North Star Ranch fell into a rhythm as they waited for Daniel Baker to arrive. The Valdez sisters, unwilling to be idle guests, integrated themselves into the ranch's daily activities. Sophia, with her knowledge of cattle and ranch management, often rode out with Owen to check on the herds. Eliza, who had always handled their household accounts, helped Sam with the ranch's bookkeeping. Maria, the gentlest of the three, spent time with Rosa, learning new recipes and helping with household management. Each evening, they gathered for dinner, sharing stories of their day and gradually learning more about one another. Owen spoke of his years building North Star after the war, how he'd started with just a small parcel of land and a handful of cattle, gradually expanding through hard work and smart investments in the growing Texas cattle industry. The sisters shared memories of their father and life on their ranch. These conversations were bittersweet, often bringing tears but also healing as they honored Lucas Valdez's memory. On the fifth day, Owen received word that Daniel Baker had arrived in the area and would reach North Star by evening. There was a palpable sense of anticipation as they prepared for his arrival, knowing that the investigation into their father's death would soon begin in earnest. Baker arrived just before sunset, a wiry man of medium height with shrewd eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Despite his unassuming appearance, there was something about him that suggested competence and determination. After introductions and a hearty meal, they gathered in Owen's study to discuss strategy. Baker listened intently as they shared what they knew, occasionally jotting notes in a small leather-bound book. So we have suspicious circumstances surrounding Lucas Valdez's death, potentially forged debt documents, and a pattern of similar occurrences with other properties, Baker summarized. Plus a witness who saw evidence suggesting poisoning or injection. That's right, Sophia confirmed. Miguel Sanchez is willing to testify about finding our father and the broken syringe. Baker nodded thoughtfully. I'll need to speak with this Miguel and anyone else who was present when your father died or shortly after. The local doctor as well, though he may be uncooperative if he's related to Harrison. Harrison controls much of the town, Owen warned. You'll need to be careful. Careful is my specialty, Baker replied with a tight smile. I'll begin discreetly. First order of business will be establishing the true cause of death if possible, then connecting that to Harrison. What about the forged documents? Eliza asked. I'll work with Wallace on that angle, Baker assured her. Document examination is part of my expertise. If they're forgeries, we'll prove it. The conversation continued late into the night as they developed a comprehensive plan. Baker would work primarily in town, gathering evidence and interviewing witnesses. Owen would use his connections to protect those who came forward. The sisters would remain at North Star for their safety, but would help by providing detailed information about their father's business practices and any documents they could remember signing. As the meeting concluded, Baker pulled Owen aside for a private word. Sophia couldn't hear what was said, but Owen's expression grew serious as he nodded in agreement. Later, as Sophia was preparing for bed, a soft knock came at her door. She opened it to find Owen standing there, his face troubled. Is everything all right? She asked, concerned by his expression. Baker brought some news I thought you should know immediately, Owen said quietly. May I come in for a moment? Sophia nodded, opening the door wider. Her room was simply furnished but comfortable, with a small sitting area near the window. They sat in the two chairs facing each other. Baker heard rumors in town on his way here, Owen began. Harrison is claiming that I purchased you and your sisters for improper purposes. He's suggesting that you're not guests here, but... He hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. Purchased women, Sophia finished for him, her face flushing with anger. He's trying to destroy our reputation to undermine any case we might bring against him. Yes, and to damage my standing in the community as well. Owen's jaw tightened. I'm sorry to bring this to you, but I thought you should be prepared if such rumors reach your ears. Sophia stood, pacing to the window and back. It's a clever move. If we're seen as morally compromised, our accusations against him will carry less weight. Baker suggests we counter these rumors directly. Be seen in town together in respectable situations. Attend church services. Make it clear that you and your sisters are under my protection in the most honorable sense. Sophia considered this. That would mean openly associating with us. Despite the scandal Harrison is trying to create, it could damage your reputation. My reputation can withstand it, Owen said firmly. I'm more concerned about yours and your sister's. Their eyes met, and Sophia felt that connection again, the one that had been growing stronger each day. Thank you for your concern. We'll follow Baker's advice. Harrison won't succeed in smearing our names or yours. Owen nodded, rising to leave. At the door, he paused. Sophia, regardless of what happens with the investigation or the ranch, you and your sisters have a place here for as long as you want it. I need you to know that. The sincerity in his voice touched her deeply. I believe you, and that means more than I can express. After he left, Sophia sat for a long time by the window, watching the stars and thinking about how much her life had changed in just a week. From the depths of despair on that auction platform, to finding not only safety but also allies and perhaps something more with Owen. It was as if fate had intervened in the most unexpected way, offering a new path when all seemed lost. The next morning, Baker departed early to begin his investigation in Brownsville. Following his advice, Owen announced that they would all attend Sunday services in town, making a public appearance to counter Harrison's rumors. When Sunday arrived, they dressed in their finest clothes, the sisters in new dresses that Rosa had helped them make from the fabric Mrs. Abernathy had provided. Owen appeared in a formal black suit that emphasized his broad shoulders and commanding presence. You look beautiful, he told Sophia as he helped her into the wagon. The simple compliment brought color to her cheeks. The small church in Brownsville was nearly full when they arrived. Their entrance caused a noticeable stir, conversations halting mid-sentence as heads turned to watch them walk down the aisle. Owen guided them to a pew near the front, his manner projecting confidence and propriety. Sophia held her head high, meeting the curious and sometimes hostile gazes with dignity. She spotted Harrison himself in a pew across the aisle, his florid face darkening with anger at their appearance. Beside him sat a younger man Sophia recognized as his son, Edwin Harrison, who had always had a reputation for cruelty and excess. The service proceeded normally, though Sophia found it difficult to focus on the preacher's words with so many eyes upon them. When it ended, Owen deliberately led them out into the churchyard, where they could not be avoided by the other parishioners. Miss Valdez, the preacher greeted them warmly. It's good to see you and your sisters. We've been concerned about your welfare. Thank you, Reverend Johnson, Sophia replied. Mr. Northcott has been kind enough to offer us safe haven while we address the unfortunate circumstances surrounding our father's death and our property. The Reverend's eyebrows rose. I understood that your father's debts led to the necessary sale of your ranch. That appears to have been a misunderstanding, Owen interjected smoothly. We're working to clarify the situation legally. Other townspeople approached, some genuinely pleased to see the sisters, others clearly curious about the rumors. Owen remained at Sophia's side, his manner impeccably proper yet protective. Eliza and Maria similarly engaged with former friends and neighbors, dispelling with their very presence any notion that they were being held against their will or improperly. Judge Harrison eventually approached, his son trailing behind him. Northcott, he acknowledged coldly. Quite the spectacle you're making. Just attending Sunday services, Harrison, as is proper. Owen's tone was pleasant, but his eyes were steel. Harrison turned to Sophia. Miss Valdez, I'm surprised to see you in town. I understood your situation was delicate. My situation is perfectly clear, Judge Harrison, Sophia responded, her voice carrying to those nearby. I'm pursuing justice for my father, whose death and the subsequent seizure of our property have raised serious questions. Harrison's face flushed. Your father's debts were legitimate. The documents are being examined by experts, Owen interrupted, along with the circumstances of Lucas Valdez's death. Edwin Harrison stepped forward, his eyes moving over Sophia in a way that made her skin crawl. Careful, Northcott. People might wonder why you're so invested in the Valdez sisters. $2,000 is a steep price for mere charity. Owen's hand twitched toward his gun, but Sophia placed a restraining hand on his arm. Mr. Northcott's character is beyond reproach, unlike some in this town. His actions were those of a gentleman defending ladies in distress. Ladies, Edwin sneered. Is that what they're calling? Before he could finish, Reverend Johnson stepped between them. That's enough, Edwin. This is church property, and I'll not have such talk here. Judge Harrison, I suggest you and your son move along. With a final glare, Harrison guided his son away. The Reverend turned to Sophia and Owen apologetically. I'm sorry for that. Not everyone in town supports Harrison's methods, though many are afraid to say so publicly. We understand, Reverend, Sophia assured him, and we appreciate your intervention. As they prepared to leave, Mrs. Abernathy approached with several other townswomen. Sophia, dears, she greeted them warmly. We're having a quilting circle at my home on Tuesday. We'd be honored if you and your sisters would join us. The invitation was significant, a public acknowledgement of the sisters standing in the community, despite Harrison's attempts to ostracize them. Sophia accepted gratefully, recognizing it as another opportunity to counter the malicious rumors. The ride back to North Star was quieter, all of them processing the various encounters from town. As they neared the ranch, Owen finally broke the silence. You handled Harrison and his son admirably. Most women would have been intimidated. Most women haven't stood on an auction block, Sophia replied. After that, very little is intimidating. Owen's expression darkened at the reminder. I wish I could have spared you that experience. You did what matters most. You saved us from what would have followed. Sophia's voice softened. I haven't properly thanked you for that. You don't need to thank me. Nevertheless, I am grateful, not just for the rescue, but for everything since giving us a safe home, helping us seek justice, defending our reputation today. Owen glanced at her, his blue eyes intense. I would do far more if needed. Something in his tone made her heart beat faster. She wondered if he felt it too, this growing connection between them that seemed to deepen with each passing day. Over the next 2 weeks, Baker's investigation proceeded methodically. He interviewed former ranch hands, town residents, and even managed to extract information from the local doctor's assistant about Lucas Valdez's death. The evidence was mounting, suggesting not only that Lucas had been murdered, but that Harrison had indeed forged the debt documents. The sisters continued to make regular appearances in town, joining the quilting circle, attending church, and gradually rebuilding their standing in the community. With each visit, more townspeople found the courage to share information about Harrison's past dealings, adding to the case against him. At North Star, the sisters had become an integral part of daily life. Sophia often joined Owen on his rounds of the ranch, their conversations ranging from practical matters of cattle management to more personal topics, their hopes, fears, and experiences. Each day, she found herself more drawn to him, admiring not only his principles but also his quiet humor, his kindness toward his workers, and his vision for the future. One evening, as they rode back from checking a distant pasture, a sudden summer storm caught them unprepared. They raced for a line shack Owen maintained for just such emergencies, reaching it just as the heavens opened in a deluge. Inside the simple one-room structure, they found basic supplies: dry wood for the fireplace, canned goods, and blankets. Owen quickly built a fire while Sophia assessed their situation. "It looks like we might be here for a while," she observed, watching the rain lash against the single window. "That storm isn't passing quickly." Owen nodded, arranging their wet outer garments near the fire to dry. "The shack is solid. We'll be comfortable enough until it passes." As the small space warmed, they sat before the fire, sharing a simple meal of beans and jerky from the supplies. The intimate setting, with rain drumming on the roof and firelight flickering across their faces, created an atmosphere that made it difficult to maintain the careful distance they had both been preserving. "Tell me about your life before the war," Sophia asked, genuinely curious about his past. "You know so much about me now, but I know relatively little about you." Owen stared into the fire, his expression thoughtful. "I grew up in Pennsylvania. My father was a blacksmith, my mother a schoolteacher. They raised me to believe in equality and justice, values that led me to join the Union Army when the time came." "And after the war, how did you come to Texas?" "I couldn't go back to Pennsylvania. Too many ghosts." He paused. "After Thomas saved me from that prison camp, I made my way west. Worked as a ranch hand, a trail boss, saved every penny. When I had enough, I bought a small parcel of land here and started building North Star." "You've built something remarkable," Sophia said sincerely. "Not just the ranch, but the community around it. Your workers respect you. The townspeople trust you, even against Harrison's influence." Owen looked at her then, his expression open in a way she hadn't seen before. "I've been lucky, and I've had good people around me." His voice lowered. "And now I have you and your sisters bringing new life to the place." The way he said "you" made Sophia's breath catch. "Owen." He reached across the small space between them, taking her hand in his. "Sophia, I need to be honest with you. My feelings for you have grown beyond mere friendship or protective concern." Her heart raced at his words. "Mine as well," she admitted softly. "But the timing is complicated," he continued. "You're vulnerable, fighting for your home and justice for your father. I don't want to take advantage of that situation." Sophia appreciated his concern but also recognized the authenticity of her own feelings. "My circumstances don't change what's in my heart," she told him. "If anything, this struggle has shown me what truly matters and who truly matters." Owen's eyes searched hers, looking for certainty. What he saw must have reassured him, because he leaned forward slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away. Instead, Sophia met him halfway, their lips meeting in a gentle kiss that quickly deepened with shared emotion. When they finally parted, both slightly breathless, Owen rested his forehead against hers. "I've wanted to do that since the day I saw you standing so bravely on that auction platform." Sophia smiled. "Even then, when I was dusty and defiant, especially then," he assured her. "Your strength in the face of such adversity. It was impossible not to admire." They talked through the night as the storm raged outside, sharing more of themselves than they had with anyone before. Owen spoke of the horrors he'd witnessed during the war, the nightmares that still occasionally plagued him, and his determination to build something good and just in their aftermath. Sophia revealed her fears for her sister's futures, her grief for her father, and her uncertainty about what would come next even if they regained their ranch. By the time dawn broke, bringing clear skies, something fundamental had shifted between them. The connection they had been building over weeks had crystallized into something deeper, something neither could deny or wanted to resist. As they rode back to North Star, they agreed to keep their developing relationship private for now, not out of shame, but to avoid complicating the ongoing investigation. The fight against Harrison remained their priority, but now they faced it not just as allies but as something more. The weeks that followed brought significant developments in Baker's investigation. He located a former ranch hand who had witnessed Judge Harrison arguing with Lucas Valdez the day before his death. The witness reported hearing Harrison threaten Lucas, saying, "You'll regret standing in my way." More damning still, Baker managed to extract a confession from the doctor's assistant, who admitted that the doctor had deliberately misdiagnosed Lucas Valdez's cause of death, despite clear signs of poisoning, doing so under Harrison's direct instruction. Wallace, meanwhile, had engaged a document expert from San Antonio who confirmed that the signatures on the debt papers were indeed forgeries, skillful ones, but forgeries nonetheless. By mid-August, they had enough evidence to approach the territorial authorities. Baker compiled a comprehensive report detailing the murder of Lucas Valdez, the document forgery, and the pattern of similar crimes committed by Harrison over the years. Wallace prepared the legal case for reclaiming the Valdez ranch and seeking justice for Lucas's murder. The day before they were to present their case to the territorial marshal and circuit judge, Baker arrived at North Star with troubling news. "Harrison knows we're closing in," he reported grimly. "My sources in town say he's preparing to flee. He's liquidating assets and has hired additional gunmen, not just ranch hands." "When?" Owen demanded. "Tonight or tomorrow. He's getting desperate, which makes him dangerous." They quickly adjusted their plans. Owen would ride to the territorial marshal's office immediately with Baker's evidence, while Sam and the ranch hands would strengthen security at North Star in case. Harrison decided to strike directly. As Owen prepared to leave, he took a moment alone with Sophia. "I don't like leaving you and your sisters here," he admitted, checking his weapons. "We're safer here than anywhere else," Sophia assured him. "Sam and the men will protect us, and Rosa has already moved us to the interior rooms as a precaution." Owen took her hands in his. "When this is over, when Harrison is brought to justice and your ranch is returned to you." He hesitated. "I need to know where we stand. Will you return to your ranch or stay with you?" Sophia finished for him. She had been pondering this question herself. "I don't know yet. My sisters and I need our home and legacy restored. It's what our father would want. But," she met his gaze directly, "what I feel for you is real, Owen. Whatever happens next, that won't change." He nodded, understanding the complexity of her position. "We'll figure it out together. First, let's end Harrison's reign of terror." With a quick kiss, he mounted his horse and rode out, Baker accompanying him. Sophia watched until they disappeared from view, then returned to the house where her sisters waited anxiously. "Will it be over soon?" Maria asked, her young face showing the strain of the past months. "I believe so," Sophia assured her. "One way or another, we'll have justice for Father." Night fell over North Star Ranch with an unnatural stillness. Sam had positioned men around the property, and the main house was secured like a fortress. The sisters remained in the central study with Rosa, windows shuttered and doors locked. Just after midnight, they heard the distant sound of hoofbeats, many of them approaching fast. "They're coming," Eliza whispered, reaching for the shotgun Sam had left with them. Sophia took a deep breath, steadying her nerves. "Remember what Sam said. Stay away from windows, keep low, and let the men handle this if possible." The sound of horses entering the ranch yard was followed by a man's voice, Edwin Harrison's voice, calling out demandingly, "Northcott, send out the Valdez women. My father wants a word with them." Sam's reply was measured but firm. "Mr. Northcott isn't here and the ladies are under this ranch's protection. I suggest you move along before this gets unpleasant." Edwin's laugh was ugly. "There are 15 of us and what's 6 of you? Be reasonable, old man." The first shots rang out moments later, making the women flinch. The sound of gunfire, shouting men, and breaking glass filled the night as Harrison's men attacked the ranch. "The back room," Rosa urged, leading them deeper into the house. It has no windows and a strong door. They had just reached the room when they heard glass breaking in the kitchen, followed by heavy footsteps. Someone had breached the house. "In here, quickly," Rosa whispered, ushering them inside. But before she could follow, a figure appeared in the hallway: Edwin Harrison, a gun in his hand and a malicious smile on his face. "There you are," he said, training his weapon on Rosa. "Where are the Valdez sisters?" Rosa stood her ground. "Gone. Mr. Northcott took them away this morning." Edwin's eyes narrowed. "You're lying, old woman." He moved closer. "Tell me where they are, or I'll—" The report of a gun cut off his threat. Edwin staggered, looking down in shock at the red stain spreading across his chest. Behind him stood Sophia, her father's revolver steady in her hands. "That's for my father," she said quietly as he collapsed to the floor. More gunfire outside indicated that the battle was still raging. Sophia quickly checked that Edwin was no longer a threat, then guided Rosa into the secure room with her sisters. "We need to stay here until it's over," she instructed, her voice remarkably calm despite what she had just done. Inside, she was trembling, but her father had taught her that sometimes protection required difficult actions. The gunfire continued for what seemed like hours but was likely only minutes. Gradually, it subsided, replaced by shouts that sounded like Sam's men rather than Harrison's. Finally, a knock came at their door. "Miss Sophia, it's Sam, it's over. You can come out now." Cautiously, they emerged to find the house damaged but secured. Through the windows, they could see several bodies in the yard: Harrison's men who had fallen in the attack. Sam himself had a bloodied arm but assured them it was just a graze. "What about Judge Harrison?" Sophia asked, looking around for the architect of their misery. "He wasn't with them," Sam reported grimly. "Edwin led the attack, but the judge himself is still unaccounted for." This news was troubling. If Harrison hadn't joined the attack on North Star, where was he? The answer came with the sound of approaching riders, not the disorganized approach of attackers, but the measured pace of lawmen. Through the window, they saw Owen riding at the front, alongside a man wearing a marshal's badge. Relief flooded through Sophia at the sight of him, apparently unharmed. The marshal took charge of the situation, ordering his deputies to secure the surviving attackers. Owen rushed to Sophia, embracing her tightly once he confirmed she was unhurt. "Harrison?" she asked against his shoulder. "Dead," Owen replied quietly. "He resisted arrest when we confronted him in town. Pulled a gun on the marshal." He drew back to look at her. "It's over, Sophia. We found documents in his office detailing everything: the murders, the forgeries, even payments to accomplices. Your ranch will be returned to you and your sisters." The news should have brought unalloyed joy, but Sophia found her emotions more complex. Justice had been served, their home would be restored, but at such cost: her father gone forever, lives lost in tonight's violence, and now she faced the decision she had been avoiding. "Edwin is dead," she told Owen quietly. "He broke into the house. I had to protect Rosa and my sisters." Owen's arms tightened around her. "You did what was necessary. No one will blame you for that." The next days were a blur of activity. The territorial authorities took statements from everyone involved, formally exonerated Lucas Valdez's name, and initiated the legal process to return the ranch to the Valdez sisters. The town of Brownsville, released from Harrison's grip, began a process of healing and reconciliation, with many coming forward to share their own stories of his intimidation and corruption. At North Star, repairs began on the damage from the attack. Owen insisted the sisters continue to stay until their ranch was officially returned and restored to livable condition. This interim period gave Sophia time to consider her future and her heart. One evening, 2 weeks after the attack, Owen found her sitting alone on the porch, watching the sunset paint the Texas sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. Sophia smiled, patting the space beside her on the bench. "I was hoping you would." They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, enjoying the spectacle of the sunset and each other's company. "Wallace says the paperwork will be complete by the end of the week," Owen finally said. "Your ranch will be officially yours again." Sophia nodded. "He told me." "Eliza's already making lists of what needs to be done to restore the house and outbuildings." "And you?" Owen asked carefully. "Have you decided what you want to do?" Sophia turned to face him fully. "I've been thinking about that a great deal. My sisters and I need to reclaim our ranch. It's our heritage, our father's legacy. We need to make it productive again, honor his memory." Owen nodded, his expression carefully neutral, though she could see the disappointment in his eyes. "I understand. It's the right thing to do." "But," she continued, reaching for his hand, "that doesn't mean we can't build something new as well." She took a deep breath. "I love you, Owen Northcott. These past months have shown me what kind of man you are: honorable, brave, compassionate. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose you." Hope flickered in his eyes. "What are you suggesting?" "Our ranches are only 10 miles apart. Perhaps they could become one operation with 2 households. For now," she added, her meaning clear. "And perhaps in time 1 household would be sufficient." Owen's face broke into a smile that transformed his features. "Sophia Valdez, are you proposing a merger?" "Of ranches at first," she confirmed, returning his smile. "And then, if you're agreeable, of lives." He took her hands in his expression growing serious. "I love you, Sophia. I think I began falling in love with you the moment I saw you standing tall on that auction platform, protecting your sisters with everything you had." He kissed her hands reverently. "Nothing would make me happier than joining our lives together." "Then that's what we'll do," Sophia said with newfound certainty. "My sisters and I will restore our ranch, honor our father's memory, and you and I will build a future together, linking our properties and our lives." Owen leaned forward, sealing their agreement with a tender kiss that held the promise of all that was to come. 3 months later, on a crisp autumn day, Sophia stood on the porch of the restored Valdez Ranch house, watching as a familiar rider approached. Owen had been overseeing cattle operations on his side of their now combined property for the past week, and his return was always the highlight of her day. The Valdez Ranch was flourishing again. With Owen's help and resources, they had rebuilt quickly, restoring buildings, replanting fields, and rebuilding their cattle herd. Eliza had taken on much of the day-to-day management, displaying a talent for business that their father would have proudly recognized. Maria, now courted by the son of a neighboring rancher, had brought new life and laughter back to their home. And Sophia had found a balance she hadn't thought possible, honoring her father's legacy while building a new future with the man who had saved her in more ways than one. Owen dismounted, greeting her with a kiss that still made her heart race. "Everything's in order at North Star," he reported. "Sam has things well in hand." "And here as well," Sophia replied. "The new hands are working out nicely." They walked together into the house that would, in just 2 weeks, host their wedding. The past months had brought healing, and Justice Harrison's crimes exposed, his ill-gotten gains redistributed to his victims, and the town of Brownsville slowly rebuilding trust in its institutions. That evening, as they sat with Eliza and Maria around the dinner table, sharing stories and plans for the future, Sophia felt a deep sense of peace. The journey from that terrible day on the auction platform to this moment of contentment had been arduous and painful, but also transformative. "A toast," Owen proposed, raising his glass, "to Lucas Valdez, whose legacy lives on in his remarkable daughters." "To father," the sisters echoed. And Sophia added, her eyes meeting Owen's with love, to unexpected beginnings even in our darkest moments. As their glasses clinked together, Sophia reflected on the strange twist of fate that had brought Owen into their lives that day in Brownsville. A cowboy with a conscience, bidding high and declaring them free, not knowing that his act of justice would lead to love, to family, to a future brighter than any of them could have imagined in their darkest hour. 2 years later, on a warm spring morning, Sophia stood on the porch of what was now known as the North Star Valdez Ranch, watching her husband working with the new foal in the corral. Their consolidated operation had prospered beyond expectations, becoming one of the most successful ranches in the territory. Beside her, cradled in her arms, their 6-month-old son, Lucas Owen Northcott, gurgled happily as he watched his father with wide blue eyes. In the garden, Maria played with Eliza's toddler daughter, both young women now happily married and building their own families while remaining integral to the ranch operations. Life had settled into a rhythm of hard work and profound joy. The shadow of Harrison's crimes had faded, replaced by the legacy they were all building together, one of justice, family, and love. Owen looked up, catching sight of Sophia and their son. His face broke into the smile that still made her heart skip a beat. He said something to the ranch hand beside him, then strode toward the porch, removing his hat as he approached. "How are my two favorite people this morning?" he asked, climbing the steps to join them. "Watching you," Sophia replied, leaning into his embrace. "Thinking how fortunate we are." Owen gazed down at their son, then at his wife. "From the darkest day to our brightest future," he murmured, echoing the words they had exchanged in their wedding vows. "I thank God every day that I was in Brownsville that afternoon." "As do I," Sophia agreed. "Though I still maintain that you overpaid terribly." Owen laughed, the sound rich with happiness. "Best $2,000 I ever spent," he declared, kissing her forehead. "The return on investment has been beyond calculation." As they stood together on the porch, their son between them and their joined ranches stretching out before them, Sophia reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From the auction block to this life of love and purpose, a path neither of them could have foreseen, but one they now walked together, step by step, day by day, building a legacy of freedom and love that would endure long after they were gone.